This weekend, we're at Hockenheim as Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, reconvenes after a short break. And it's a crucial point of the season because there is this event and two more in quick succession to determine the champions. It's a very strong 41-car entry around the Hockenheim circuit, and that is going to deliver action. Of that, there is no question in these two one-hour double driver races. Tyre management and traffic management, absolutely crucial, with everybody now eager for points as we get to the business end of the 2023 championship. The European element of Fanatec GT World Challenge goes along with Australia, Asia and America. And this calendar, 5 endurance rounds and 5 Sprint Cup events as well, to determine champions across overall, as well as silver, gold and bronze. In Pro, it is any classification of driver. Championship leaders Raffaele Marciello and Timur Boguslavski. But a winner here last year, when it was the Endurance Cup that ran at Hockenheim, was Christopher Mies. And at his home circuit, the German driver is once again eager for victory.
Obviously not far from where I live, about like 2.5, 3 hours, so I've been here a lot. Last year in endurance we won our first race together here, so I have good memories at this track. Also we won other championships here before. It's a good place, it's old school racetrack. Obviously there's a lot of discussion with track limits, but I kind of like this track here.
Amazingly, because they are triple champions in sprint, Dries van Thor and Charles Weerts have yet to win in 2023, and the BMW seem to be struggling in practice and qualifying. It's not been a great start to the weekend.
It's a track I like driving on. Last year we were very competitive. We were 3 times first in qualifying with Dries and Kelvin, and leading the way in the first hour. Then we had an issue with the gearbox that forced us to retire, so unfortunately no good result for us, but good memories, and it's a track where I typically perform quite well, so let's see what this weekend will bring.
Valentino Rossi comes to Hockenheim as a GT3 race winner. Remember, the last time the cars hit the track for a Sprint Cup round at Misano, it was Valentino and Maxime Martin who were the winners. Confidence is up now. Let's see how he fares coming to Hockenheim, which so far has not been a great track for the BMWs.
You know, on the paper have 2 difficult tracks, Hockenheim and Valencia. But you never know, and also in the practice the car is fast and we are stronger than what we expect. So we will see. We have to improve on Saturday, try to take more points on Saturday, and try to be strong on Sunday like in the first 2 races.
Another German brand looking for a good result this weekend is Porsche. Christian Engelhardt is at the wheel of one of the 2 dynamic GT entries, and around here is always a force to be reckoned with. But again, is this going to be a circuit under the BOP kind to the Porsches? We'll see.
41 cars is the challenge, obviously. The pit lane is not so long, so we are a bit on top of each other. It's not going to be so easy when the pit window opens and everybody wants to come in the same lap, then it could be tricky. So I hope that we don't get boxed in or something like this at the pit stop. That's a real side challenge to have a good strategy, the right moment to come into the pits.
There's going to be a big battle within the Gold Cup, where you can have 2 golds or a gold and a silver driver to make up a driver combination. The championship here is being led by a BMW. Callum Williams and Nicholas Crutten have had a very good season thus far in class in their WRT run BMW, and Nicholas Crutten, who's been a race winner in GT3 machinery on home soil in the past, is looking for success here this weekend.
I have a lot of people coming this weekend, especially the family. Yeah, next to Nürburgring, this is the second closest track. It's only 1.5 hours from home, so yeah, it always feels good to be in a local environment, and yeah, I can't wait to get started.
In silver, it's all about silver-graded drivers, and there's also welcome variety in terms of the chassis. Take Nova Race with the Honda NSX GT3. It's a great shape, and it's always a popular addition to the grid. The team making progress every time out, and one of the men behind the wheel, Jacopo Guidetti. He too is looking for good results around here as he learns more and more about GT3 racing.
The track in this championship we haven't seen before, but yes, we have to understand very fast the track and the championship, because the level is very high. But yes, we are an Italian championship, and we have to make our best to fight for the Silver Cup.
Now this Lamborghini is an interesting addition to the entry, especially in silver. The SRO Motorsport Huracan has been a race winner within the DTM this year. That's a single driver competition, and Maximilian Powell, one of the drivers here this weekend, the man that guided the car to DTM success.
Obviously 2022, with our full season commitment in paddock GT Masters, we were very competitive, scoring a lot of podiums. And now, yeah, we are with the same car here, so let's see. We are figuring out heating the tires, doing pit stop, etc. So yeah, let's see what we can do. We are just trying to learn and make the best out of it.
But in silver, leading the championship and banking points, this Audi. Lorenzo Patrese and Alex Acker, the two drivers. They're both quick, they're both getting stronger all the time. And so this really is the benchmark car. And here on home soil, Alex Acker is looking for points to increase that lead.
I mean, it's a series. It has always been like that, also in the past. And whenever I've raced or competed in the silver class, it's always been quite tight. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be leading the championship together with my teammate Patrese, and yeah, I think it's a good one.
There are some fascinating driver combinations in the Bronze Cup as well. You have to have one bronze-graded driver, but they can be with a silver or a platinum. And that means there is some talent to be found for yet another really close fight as we get set for race one here at Hockenheim. This promises to be a very busy race indeed. 41 cars set to do battle. It's a 1-hour race, and we are looking forward hugely to seeing what pans out. Race one of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, is about to get underway. The lights go green. It's a bit messy in the mid-pack, but it's blast off, and it's Pepper that leads then. Jordan Pepper puts himself ahead of Ricardo Feller as they dive down towards turn one. Then Vervish and Marshall go toe-to-toe. 1 or 2 run very, very wide at turn one, but a good getaway by Pepper.
Yes, did well. I thought Ricardo Feller might have tried to get around the outside. He was on the cleaner part of the track going into turn one, but I think there was an excellent start from Jordan Pepper to consolidate his pole position. And look, all behind him, it's a traffic jam all the way through the exit of one into turn two, and then all the way down this long, sort of almost curve of what they call the back straight down into the hairpin bend, where the first big overtake opportunity in reality is going to look at Feller trying to line up Jordan Pepper, but realizes, and rightly too, no opportunity.
So out of the hairpin with the new tarmac lane is their contact. It's getting very dusty. Yes, there is. There's a spin and drama. 1 off, 2 off. We've got a Lamborghini that's gone round and trying to rejoin and force the pack out of its way. That was all a bit leery. The other car that went around was 25 by the look of it, the Owen Bastar Patrick Niederhauser Audi. And I would suggest that the Lamborghini that we saw spin was the either Baptiste Moulin or Rolf Ineichen entry. We'll check at the end of the lap, but drama up in the hairpin.
Yeah, it's not really a surprise, particularly at the tail of the field. Everybody concertinaing into that hairpin bend, and those at the back are still in full throttle, while those directly ahead are getting out of the throttle and ahead of them on the brakes. So this is the usual motorway concertina effect.
There's drama up at the hairpin. That looks like Palette's gone around as well. More mayhem and debris all over the road.
Yeah, the Hexus Porsche likewise has gone around, and bodywork and damage to the right rear of the Mercedes. So that, well, certainly there'll be a full course yellow, I suspect, to get that car removed. And that inevitably leads to, David, you know what?
Safety cars lead safety cars, don't they? They breed them. And we've also got Sebastian Bode's Mercedes into the pits. That's picked up damage. So the hairpin 2 laps in a row has been a pinch point. Now, up front, Jordan Pepper, Ricardo Feller lead the way. The Porsche there, 55, is Christopher Zirkling. But the race leaders are almost nose to tail. That is the leader. That is Jordan Pepper. The start is under investigation. And he's under attack as well. Ricardo Feller going with him then. It's Lamborghini versus Audi. 2 laps in the book now.
And Feller looks as if he's got the pace, but has he got enough of it to get round the Lamborghini? Both are setting sector times, purple sector times, one in sector 1, the other in sector 2. So this duo are making a sort of a mini break from Fred Vervies in 3rd place. He's got clear air back to Lucas Legere in 4th position.
Now Valentino Rossi is up to 24th. Safety car deployed. Safety car is called, and straight away the drivers back it off. Coming up out of turn 4, punctured tyre, stricken car, debris on the road. Jim Plow's race is done. Safety car is deployed.
The 25 has turned around, the Lamborghini likewise. This is the opening lap. The Lamborghini just sticks it back in gear and doesn't give a you know what about anybody else coming, just turns the car and drives on.
And that was the second lap where Pla got turned around and Stephen Palat went around as well. Timur Boguslavski, championship leader down the pit lane. So in he comes, 88 down the pit road. Now this is not good news.
No, it is not. We don't know what the reason is.
We are back racing here at Hockenheim. Lamborghini, Audi, BMW as they go across the line.
And Ricardo Feller is determined not to let the Lamborghini get ahead. He stuck to him all the way through up until we had that safety car deployment. Look at the squabbling going on coming up into turn 2. Very aggressive defense from the 27 and well, denies the following Audi the opportunity to get past, but that's going to be a pass surely coming down. That's Christopher Mies defending against Gilles Magnus. Goes to the inside, but that's going to be the wrong part of the racetrack when you get down to the hairpin, unless he can get a nose ahead of Christopher Mies, which he's done. Well done, Gilles Magnus, but Mies will always be late in the brakes. Can he get the position back? He knows this track intimately. Watch for the switch back from Magnus as he comes out on the hairpin. Christopher Mies, there's an object lesson. That's what race experience is all about.
And there was one similar going on ahead. Dennis Marshall was up the inside of Lucas Leggeret and he gained a place as well. Coming into the Spitzkehrer, there's in the background the Honda going wide, but also trying to dive bomb the traffic. So as ever, that hairpin is where you can do the overtaking. In the meantime here, Enrique Chavez in the surviving Gulf liveried McLaren is on his toes, trying to find a way past the Porsche ahead of him. Robert Renauer at the wheel of it, and Renauer, number 91, busy battling with Simon Gachet, both ahead of the McLaren.
Yeah, the McLaren looked to me like it was being held up.
And that is a rather damaged Ferrari for Andrea Bertolini, and that's not something you see very often. So Bertolini has had a big whack with a wall somewhere. Yeah. Let's have a look then. There's a spinning Lamborghini, and as others try and avoid, I think Bertolini ended up taking evasive action. That's the Honda going off.
Yeah.
So he's into the wall.
Oh, he hit a big time.
Safety car for the pit lane. We've got 3 minutes effectively before the pit window opens, and Ricardo Feller knows this is his chance to get the lead before the pit stops, but he can't do it until he gets to the timing line.
Absolutely not, but he has done for the second time after safety car deployment the right job. He's kept himself right under the rear wing of Jordan Pepper in the Lamborghini, and once again Fred Vervisch trying to do the same thing, but the pace of the two lead cars previously has been enough to draw them away from the rest of the field. Down into turn 2, and a line of cars diving down the inside. One of the McLarens, JP Motorsports, gets up alongside, takes the position away relatively easy from Jordan Love. So that was Christian Klein in the 111 McLaren, up from 13th into 12th.
So they wriggle their way out of turns 2 and 3, and then the speed builds all the way through the parabolica, 260 kilometres an hour, and then a hard brake to 60 kilometres an hour into the hairpin. Dive up the inside. That was Vervisch hanging on to third place. Dennis Marshall on the outside line couldn't make it stick, but goes for the inside line down towards 7. The Audi's almost toe-to-toe. Dennis Marshall leans and rubs, and he's got the inside line, and he goes through. Vervisch gets hung out to dry.
That could have been trouble at nil, but both drivers did a good job. Magnus having to defend. Look at this side-by-side into turn 1.
To the outside line on the grass and all is Ricardo Feller, and he does it, goes right round the outside of Jordan Pepper. They're both off the road, they're back on, but we've got a new leader. Feller takes over the lead, and you're right, Wirtz is in the pits, and so also is Cruton.
That was courage of a magnitude you don't see very often.
So on board now with Jordan Pepper. He was the chased, he's now the chaser. Jean-Baptiste Simonard is into the pit lane, getting very busy very early. Really the first couple of opportunities, people cycling through.
The former race leader gets underway.
Here are the leading Audis. Down they come towards the Spitzkehrer, and it's under a second now because, again, 2/10 pulled back in the first sector alone by Drudy.
Yeah, I mean, this car, both Feller and Drudy have done an excellent job, as they've done for me throughout the entire season. But again, a challenge potentially to turn 8. Does he go down the inside? Slides it down. Easy peasy, and that was maybe a little bit too easy. I don't think Matteo Drudy's going to agree, but that was not much of a defense from Bart in the lead Audi. Vermeulen getting very defensive and very aggressive, and from both drivers, contact between the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. Frank Pereira, and is that damage to the Ferrari? I think it is. I think the Ferrari certainly it looked like it was much slower coming off turn 5 than on previous occasions.
So this is what's being looked at for number 40 Audi. Coming out of turn 17, off the road, gets squeezed in fairness, but he's back on there to be alongside, so that was just hard racing, wasn't it?
In my view, that was hard but fair.
There is Vermeulen, who's got himself back with Pereira for 4th place now.
Yeah, the car looks very scrappy around the right front. He's got past easily. There's a problem with the Lamborghini.
There must be.
Yeah, it looks like a rear tyre has got cut down.
Yeah, you're
that
right.
Left rear looks like it's smoking. It is. It's off the rim virtually. What a disappointment. What a great effort indeed by VSR Racing. And to end up in this situation with a cut down left rear wheel tyre and nothing at all that Frank Pereira is able to do but limp back to the pit and sort of mitigate any further damage from the tyre. Let's say it's falling apart, running back a little bit too quickly.
So Drudy leads Bart, Van Thor is 3rd, 4th is Vermeulen, 5th Williams, 6th Iteki, 7th is Haase, 8th is McDonald, 9th is Martin, 10th is Engelhardt, De Falco is 11th, Niederhauser up to 12th, Neubauer 13th, Everard 14th, Valente is 15th, and Pereira limps onto the pit lane. The top speed at turn 1, the bravest, is Albert Costa, 173 clicks. And this is the fight for 3rd place then, with 2 more laps. We've still got time for 2 more. So through goes Van Thor. The margin to Vermeulen was 0.283. The margin is 0.338. Got up slightly, but Vermeulen is always quick on this section of the circuit. Vincent Voss looks on in his trademark flat cap.
As our race leader comes down into the hairpin bend for the final time on a race lap. So Matteo Drudy and Riccardo Feller have been excellent. Oh, side by side! Will body rubs be a part of this final run into the final, the hairpin bend? And again, Van Thor has got the inside line. While it's not necessarily the quickest of contact again between the Ferrari and the BMW, so very aggressive young Vermeulen, isn't he?
Should he have backed out of that sooner and tried to get the undercut like he had to think about here? Van Thor doing a good job of defending, but Vermeulen braved it out on the outside.
But Van Thor is backing off, deliberately trying to slow down Vermeulen, force him to come off the throttle, so that when Van Thor gets back on the throttle, Vermeulen will be off the throttle. That's the tactic I think that we're seeing from Dries Van Thor to defend. Look at the way the BM slides as it comes into the stadium.
1 corner to go. Mathieu Drudy is on target to win race 1 of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. Mathieu Drudy, Riccardo Feller win at Hockenheim. Nicholas Barton, Fred Vervish second, and Vermeulen dives up the inside of the last corner to go 3rd. Fantastic, the Ferrari has done it. Vermeulen goes through, and he's had to work hard for that.
Absolutely, and what a courageous and opportunistic move by Thierry Vermeulen to make that move and catch Dries Van Thor. And look, you can see the response and reaction from the faces in the WRT team. They hadn't anticipated that. They thought their driver had done sufficient to consolidate a podium position. Vermeulen saw the opportunity, stuck the Ferrari on the high ground and got through.
So let's just confirm the way that they finished in the first of the 2 races of the weekend. Riccardo Feller and Mathieu Drudy ahead of Fred Vervish and Nicholas Bart, Albert Costa and Thierry Vermeulen coming through for 3rd. 4th, Charles Wirtz and Dries Van Thor ahead of Nicholas Crutzen and Callum Williams, the winning gold. And 6th, Adam Iteki and Cesar Gazo. Lucas Legere 7th with Christopher Haase. 8th, Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin ahead of Adrian Delina and Christian Engelhardt. Top 10 rounded out by Aurelian Panis and Alberto Di Folco. Winning trophies in the air, 2 very happy drivers. Not only the win, but also the points. And with championship leaders Raffaele Marciello and Timo Boguslawski not even getting through the first 10 laps, that deals them a big blow in the championship and helps these 2 with the win markedly. It's going to be really interesting to see what that does going into tomorrow's race. And what it means coming into today's race is that it is a 1.5 points between the Marcello Boguslawski Mercedes and the Drudy Feller Audi. It is getting very competitive indeed at the top of the standings in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, with still Valencia and Zandvoort to go. So they've had a sort of stop-start beginning to the year. Now it gets very busy towards the end. And here the sun is shining. It's a little bit more cloudy today perhaps than yesterday. David Addison and John Watson trackside. And John, it's another hot day.
Yes, it is a bit more overcast, but actually it's warmer, marginally warmer, both track and ambient temperatures. And we know what that's going to lead to, and we saw that yesterday in the one of our sprint races. We looked now at this 4.5, 7.4 kilometre, 17 turn Hockenheim Ring racetrack, and lots of excitement and challenges yesterday, but to go back to the temperatures, a number of the competitors found during their stints, with 2 drivers per car, that rear tyre temperature was reaching a point where it caused the tyre to eventually just didn't have the ability to withstand. The one car that stood out to me all the way through was the number 40, the Tresor Audi, and that car looked superbly balanced. Looking at it right now, superbly balanced, and both drivers, Riccardo Feller and Matteo Drudi, did an outstanding job to take victory.
Well, there is then the car on pole position. Matteo Drudi and Riccardo Feller, the silver sheeting there to try to reflect some of the heat away from the cockpit, because it's going to get very warm in there. The grid formed. There will, of course, be the rolling start for the formation lap. Chance to get some temperature, more temperature, into the Pirelli tyres. And despite dramas for 1 or 2 of the cars yesterday, they were all back out for qualifying this morning. And everybody then, I think, with a healthy car ready to go. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Audi is as dominant numerically as yesterday. There you've got lining up second on the grid, Patrick Niederhauser and Owen Bastar, last year's GT4 European Series silver champion, moving up to GT3 machinery this year, adapting well. Patrick Niederhauser, winner here last year. It was an endurance round we had at Hockenheim last year, rather than sprint. But Patrick Niederhauser, along with Christopher Mees and Lucas Legere, a winner. And those 3 split across different cars this year. See the pole position markers there for the different classes, including bronze for the first time ever in Sprint Cup history. A female pole position in sprint. We've had it in endurance, but not in sprint. Rima Jafali taking pole in bronze this morning. An excellent effort.
I think an extremely good effort indeed, and she was delighted. You could see when she was interviewed just on her face. And there you can see just in the background that turquoise Mercedes on the left of the top of the picture. That's the car Rima achieved that bronze pole position, and okay, she's done part 1 of the deal. Now comes what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's a different kettle of fish, a little bit of banter going on the grid. And, well, Raffaele may be imagining if and or what I could have been in the front row of the grid. I'm on the second row of the grid. It's not the end of the world. And we know just how outstanding Raffaele Marcello is, both as a qualifier and as a race driver.
So what's he saying to Matteo Drudi? I'll get you at turn 1 or at turn 2? Well, he's certainly going to try and unpsych or outpsych Matteo Drudi. Timo Bogoslawski had a pretty torrid day yesterday. And there you see Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi. Another cracking effort by Maxime Martin to put the car on the 4th row of the grid. Of course, they come here having won the equivalent race at Misano.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference, because when Martin can go out and do the opening stint, then whatever position he hands the car over to Valentino, he will get into the car, not having to do the hard yards that Valentino had to do in yesterday's race, where he started a lot further down the grid than that number 46 BMW is.
Now, McLaren's had a torrid day yesterday as well at Garage 59. Benjamin Goethe, a man to watch in this race, and he's with Gemma Scott on the grid.
Benji, yesterday was a difficult day for you guys, having not finished the race, and proving how difficult that hairpin can be in these opening few laps with such a busy grid.
Yeah, it was a bit of a hectic start yesterday. A lot of cars kind of went off and were dive bombing everyone, but yeah, unfortunately Nikolai had some contact in the second lap of the race, which forced us to retire the car. But today's a new day, and hopefully we can have a better race. At least finish the race today would be nice.
Absolutely, and your highest placed McLaren.
Yeah, which is nice considering we're starting quite far low down, so that's not so nice. But it's a little something to be the highest placed McLaren. So, but yeah, obviously we want to be further up on the grid overall. That's the aim.
Well, have a great race, and hopefully see you at the end. Thanks, Benji.
Thank you.
I mean, talking about being, I mean, his car, the right side of the car, really at the area around the door and the body around the door, the damage to it was significant. And Benji Goethe is being very gentle.
Stefan Ortelli joins Albert Costa on the grid. Inveterate enthusiast Stefan Ortelli can't keep away, can he?
No, he's got an involvement with some young driver. I spoke to him at Nürburgring, and the name escapes me because he said it and I didn't recognize it, and I haven't followed up on it. But he is here working in an advisory, advisory role, and he's still jumping into Porsche from time to time when they require a driver of a particular era, mostly around the late 90s, I think, when he was racing at Le Mans, and so he's still active. Yes,
it was, what, 97, 98 that he won Le Mans with Porsche with Laurent Aiello. And there, being strapped into his Porsche, is Christian Engelhardt. Right, we just seen Albert Costa. He might be able to reflect on yesterday's race. He's with Gemma.
Albert, I think you've had a bit of mixed emotions this weekend. It's not been challenging for you, but let's focus on the race ahead.
Yeah, yesterday was a tricky day, up and down again. But at the end, I show a good performance in the race. I show a good overtakes here in this track that is not easy to overtake. We improve a lot the car. I'm really happy with the job of the team. And yeah, now it's a new chance. He did a really good qualifying, so it's a really, really good chance to do a new podium and maybe a win. So I will fight. As always, I will give my best, and yeah, I will try to enjoy, and everything will come.
And of course, the Ferrari seems to be faring pretty well alongside the Audis.
Yeah, we are improving, as I said. The Ferrari we test in, let's say, May, I think, or April here. It's completely different, and now it's much better. It's easy to drive. We understand a little bit more the car, and yeah, the team, as I said, is doing a fantastic job, make my life much easier now, and I'm really starting to enjoy to drive this car.
Excellent. Well, have a great race. Thanks, Albert.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Well, we know the speed is there, and it's a quick car as well, the Emil Frey Ferrari. Christopher Hauser, who put a lap in late in the session, 6th on the grid, sharing with Lucas Legeret, and a massively experienced driver is Christopher Hauser.
Yeah, so not quite the Audi lockout that we saw yesterday. The 7 of the 8 cars on the grid were Audis, so that's slightly more broken up with Mercedes, Marcello, the Ferrari with Thierry Vermeulen, and looking elsewhere, BMWs with Maxime Martin in the 4th row of the grid.
Alberto Di Falco getting on board the Butson VDS Audi. The VDS name back on SRO grids. Maxime Martin will start in the so-called Valentino Rossi BMW, the very distinctive number 46 BMW. As ever, there are lots of Rossi fans here. They've been here Friday, Saturday and today, all wanting a glimpse of the great man and his autograph, and the Rossi merchandise area doing a roaring trade as ever. And he will do the second stint once Maxime Martin has completed the first half of the race.
Just an interesting little detail that not maybe picked up on previously, but the rear perspex window fluting on either side, which is to let air escape from the cockpit. One of the issues that GT cars, well, any enclosed race car has got, is giving good ventilation, airflow through the car to help the driver, because there's a lot of heat soak comes into these cars. So that's another little fine detail that is there to assist the job of the nut behind the wheel, or the wheel behind the nut, whichever way you want to choose to look.
So there, number 9, Audi, another of the Butson VDS cars. That's the Alberto Di Falco Aurelien Panis car, the sister car. A little bit further back is Cesar Gazzo and Adam Matecki, and respectively they're 2nd and 3rd in the Gold Championship. Nicholas Krut and Callum Williams, the Gold leaders. Franck Pereira, he will go from 10th on the grid in the car that Jordan Pepper put on pole for yesterday's race. And the Lamborghini was certainly quick over 1 lap, but if they've worked on the balance and the setup, could be a car to watch today. There is the bronze pole position car, Rima Jafali in the Mercedes. The first time a female participant has been on Sprint Cup pole in any of the classes. So another one for the record books as engines fire. And we are about to get race 2 then of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Sprint Cup underway.
Yes, knots beginning to form in stomachs, I would imagine. A 41-car field to get round the opening lap and try and do it without contact is a big ask. We saw contact on the opening lap down at turn 6, the hairpin bend. So hopefully, maybe, if and or you know what, could we get a clean, clear opening lap and no contact?
We had a GT4 race that went all the way without a single full course yellow or safety car earlier on in the day. Yesterday we had a safety car followed by a full course yellow into a safety car period. And turn 6, the hairpin, is often the pinch point.
Yes, because it's an easy place to have a lunge down the inside, but the problem is it's a bottleneck on the exit. So it narrows up quite a lot. So if you've got 3 cars trying to go into it at one time, yes, you can get 3 cars in, but you're not going to get 3 cars coming out, or not normally anyway.
So there is the grid, everybody clear of the circuit. That means that they can be released now then to accelerate away onto the formation lap. Fantastic view that, looking down from the top of the grandstand. You can see the great variety that is on the grid, and as the cars then now sprint away down towards turn 1, a chance to get some temperature into those Pirelli tyres. And with Audi being the brand to beat yesterday, let's see what we have in store. It's an Audi front row with Mathieu Drudi and Patrick Niederhauser ahead of Raffaele Marcello and Thierry Vermeulen, who will have a point to prove after yesterday. Then Christian Engelhardt and Christopher Hauser line up on the 3rd row ahead of Maxime Martin and Dries van Thor. It's Alberto Di Falco next, the Gold Cup entry alongside Franck Pereira. Then from silver, Maximilian Powell and Callum Williams from gold. Silver winner yesterday, Alain Valente, is alongside Constant Apalainen, ahead of Paul Everard and Adam Eteki, both out of gold. Thomas Neubauer and Benjamin Goethe come next, ahead of Nicholas Bart's second yesterday and Ezequiel Perez Companc. Yuki Nomoto from silver has Dean McDonald lining up alongside him, ahead of Alex Arca, who is now second in silver in the championship, and alongside Jacopo Guidetti. Then it's Nicola Marinangeli and Sean Hudspeth's Ferrari. Finlay Hutchison next, ahead of Rima Jafari, the bronze pole. Then Ralph Bowen, Alex Malikim, Diego De Fabio next, ahead of Miguel Ramos, and then Hubert Haupt, the very experienced German driver. Louis Machiels, with a damaged car yesterday, has Marcus Paverin alongside him. Then it is Federico Schionti and Patrick Kropinski, the man behind JP Motorsport. Bronze winners of yesterday, Andre Bukavoz lines up alongside Gregoire de Mustier, ahead of Philippe Zaga and Eric Debar, with, after a spin in qualifying, Stéphane Denoul at the back of the grid in that Comme Ledegar run Porsche in the Hex's colours. One of the nicest cars in terms of the livery on the grid, but had a spin, as I say, this morning. Stéphane Denoul's debut in the championship. Right, so this is Raffaele Marciello's view. He knows he's got to be on his toes off the start to try and get through those Audis and then try and build some sort of gap if he can, because Timo Boguslavski needs to protect that in stint 2.
It might be a little bit of a consolation, what I'm trying to say. He needs to be aggressive, but he needs to be careful, because their lead is perilous.
Yeah.
And anything that might be a little bit, beyond the pale of in terms of what you can control, that could be maybe a bad move. So he's in a good position, second row of the grid, and he might want to watch what's going on directly ahead of him with Matteo Drudi and Patrick Niederhauser. Those two Audi drivers are not going to give anything to either. So maybe that's the plan that Marciello will have, let those two go and squabble, and then be ready to pick up any opportunities should they arise.
Yeah, Marciello and Boguslavski a point and a half ahead of Drudi and Feller, and probably you would say the Audi drivers are the more evenly matched. I'm not saying that Boguslavski is slow, but he isn't as quick as Marciello, whereas there's not that much to choose between Drudi and Feller. You'd be hard-pressed to really pinpoint which is the faster of the two, and that's what you need in this. You need two very quick and very evenly matched drivers, and they have to be able to work together, put their egos to one side.
Yeah, the 40 Audi has got an outstanding driver lineup. They are both pro drivers. They're both capable of competing at the highest level at the very front. And others through the field don't have that level of excellence between the two drivers.
So we are about to go racing here at Hockenheim. Endurance race last year, 2 one-hour sprint races this season with this 41 strong grid. It's a very, very busy circuit. It's an all Audi front row. It's Mercedes, Ferrari row 2. You've got Porsche lining up on the inside of row 3 with Audi alongside. And as the cars accelerate up towards the line, race 2 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, is go, and a very good start is made by Matteo Drudi from pole position, but Marciello jumps ahead of Niederhauser to go second as they dive down towards turn 1. They run wide over the curb, but it's going to be Audi, Mercedes, Audi, Marciello with a really good getaway up into second place.
Yeah, and look, Maxime Martin popping out as well, trying to make up a little bit of ground, but that was opportunistic and well considered by Marciello. He got a jump on Patrick Niederhauser. Niederhauser, I don't know why he was slightly slower away than the other front row car. That was Matteo Drudi, but now streaming down this long, slightly curving back straight, and look down, one BMW goes round the outside of a Porsche. I mean, just either that was just the aerodynamic draft, or maybe there's some more performance from BMW that we haven't seen so far this weekend.
That was Van Thor. The start is under investigation as Niederhauser drops back then behind Marciello. He's got Maxime Martin behind him, so a good getaway by Martin, wasn't it, from the 4th row to 4th place, and that means that Van Meulen has dropped back, Haasler has dropped back, and the cars come then through turn 7. Really fast part of the circuit this. You see further back the McDonald's back BMW, the Jean-Baptiste Simonard, Thomas Neubauer entry in the thick of the battle, and a spin there. One of the Boots and VDS Audis goes around.
Yeah, so it's got tagged from the rear, just automatically going to spin. Oh, in fact, 3 cars. Oh, dear me, look at the mess. Oh, that's going to be certainly a localized yellow flag, probably more than that. And on top of which there'll be a whole load of carbon fiber on the racetrack that will need to be cleared away to ensure. Oh, again, Lamborghini running wide coming into the stadium.
It's one of the VSR cars, and it will get back on track. So I'm anticipating the safety car to be deployed with cars all over the road.
Safety car procedure.
And Alain Adon is in agreement. So the race director calls for the safety car. The boards are out just in time for the end of lap 1 as the drivers take them and then slow down So Drudy, Marciello, Niederhauser, Martin, Vermeulen, Haase, Engelhardt, Vanthor, Di Folco and Pereira the top 10. So now we can start to piece together who we lost. Paul Everard, Adam Ateki and one or two others got caught up in that as well. So the cars come over the timing line. And Simon Gachet there looking rather concerned because the car that he shares with Paul Everard, I think he's out. So Everard and Patrick Krapinski are the two that we have lost.
Yes, and Krapinski was also involved in that incident yesterday with the Garage 159 car, so he's been consistent through the weekend. That may not have been his fault, but looking at the car, there was a lot of damage at the front. So I don't imagine the car he was following selected reverse gear and reversed into him. Somehow I don't think that would be possible. I
would go along with that, but what we're not yet clear on is whether contact was made trying to avoid others, because as the pack scatters, you sometimes have nowhere to go. And I think Paul Everard was perhaps unsighted. We've seen the Boots and VDS car go around, Adam Ateki, that got going again. But as people tried to scatter, ending up in each other's way, potentially. So a real shame. And there you can see the damaged cars, you can see the debris on the track and the Hockenheim team sorting out the incident as quickly as.
Yeah, it's a very good team here at Hockenheim. There's a lot of racing, a lot of GT racing amongst other categories, so they're well aware of the requirements to get on the scene at the earliest opportunity, and also not just clear the car, the damaged cars away, but clear up the residue of all the carbon fiber that has been deposited throughout the entry, mid and exit of this corner.
So Paul Everard is out of the race, and Patrick Krapinski in the yellow and grey overalls with him. The pair of them okay and out of their cars, but out of the race. We'll try and piece it together in a moment as you look at the leader come up to complete lap number 2. So here we go. Have a look at the Boots and VDS Audi first of all. The second of them, because it gets turned around on the left-hand side of the screen. And then also spinning was Everard, and he gets done head on by Krapinski. Really had nowhere to go.
Something like that.
Whether or not he was unsighted, visibility is relatively limited as you're coming out of the corner, I guess, but confronted with a stationary car, damage to both. Quite a hit though, that front to front.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a lot of damage to both cars. Both cars are well and truly out of the race. Both drivers are out of their cars. They're uninjured, but what a disappointment for the teams, having waited all day to get to look at this. Porsche coming in right front, missing the bodywork, old carbon fiber again on the Porsche, so that car is going to be retired, I suspect. I don't think they would be permitted to continue in that configuration.
That's the Stefan Denouel car. As I said before the race started, one of the smartest. Well, it was. Now it looks a bit dog-eared, to say the very least. So I think it's overheated as well. So the CLRT, Common Edgar Racing Team, looks set to retire that car. Still, there's some Audi to retrieve, and there'll be a McLaren and all the sweeping up around the circuit at that section, turns 8 and 9, before we can be guaranteed to go green once more. There's the damaged Porsche.
Well, they're taking the body panels off, and one thing that when Porsche produce a GT3 race car, the engineering in it is so good that it's sort of like a modular race car, and you take one bit off in isolation, then you just literally clip on a new part.
Speed of car 40 at the start is reported to the steward.
So the pole position car, Mathieu Drudy, perceived to have been too fast before the green light, I think is what that translates to.
Well, if he was too fast, I wonder what the Mercedes 88 was doing, because it followed through, and it was the 25 of Patrick Niederhauser, who was the one that maybe was listening to and obeying whatever the delta speed will be before the lights go green.
Is the starts looking back from the Mercedes. So the cars come over the timing line, but we're looking at the replay of the starts. And into second place went Marciello. Yeah, I mean, he in a way was helped because Drudy made a good start, maybe too good, and therefore the Mercedes could go with him, whereas the other side of the grid were all going at Niederhauser's pace.
Yeah, at Niederhauser's pace was the pace, one might say, was the pace that would be expected to be the pace before the lights go green. So anybody on the left of track going into turn 1 would have been backed up by the pace of the second place front row grid starter. Damage to that, well, Mercedes has also got damage to the left front as well.
Yeah, that's the Alain Valente car. Alain Valente taking the seat of Frank Bird. He and Jordan Love won in silver yesterday. The reason he's been brought in at the very last minute is because Frank Bird's father died. Paul Bird, rally driver, motorbike team owner, on Friday evening. And so Frank Bird understandably headed home, and to keep the car in the entry, second driver is acquired, and Alain Valente stood in and repaid the faith with a win yesterday.
Did an excellent job getting the late call.
Now, this is the start on board with the Alex Acker Lorenzo Petresi Audi. Alex Acker at the wheel drop.
Yeah, so just really just trying to thread his way through that field, seeing cars out to his left, knowing that they're going to come back to the right across the racetrack. So everything he's doing right now would appear to be, thoughtful, considered, no risks, just trying to get through the field, just jockeying really for position. And ahead you can see, I think it might have been the BMW of Dries van Thol that kicked up dust as he caught the grass. So sitting there in relatively clear air and clear space. And again, this is the opening lap. You don't try and win the race, as everybody, Constantino's coming down into turn 6, looks to go down the inside, but no opportunity. Just be patient, it'll come to you. But the others around him there, you can see one of the JP Motorsports McLarens, and that's getting a little bit close to the side of Alex Acker. Was there contact or not between the McLaren and the Audi? So this is where the midfield begins to kick off. And watch. Well, that McLaren was not the one that got involved in the shunt. Kapinski's car was further behind.
Yeah.
So Alex Acker had to go very wide coming through the exit of 9-10.
Close to the edge there, isn't he, coming into the stadium, but he got away with that. This is Maxime Martin's first lap.
So Maxime Martin goes very smartly to the right of the racetrack, and very quickly will find a way around the Porsche, the 54 Porsche just directly ahead. So that route's been shut down. He goes to the left to try and then get the slightly better entry into turn 2, but of course he's on the outside. But if he can go side by side with the Porsche, which is not going to be the case, then he would be in a good position. Well, in fact, it was. He got ahead of the Porsche there in turn 2.
Yeah, from 8th on the grid, it was a very impressive lap, wasn't it, from Maxime Martin, who knows his way around here from his DTM days. And he was a BMW touring car driver. And then he has a look on the outside line of Niederhauser up to the hairpin.
Yeah, and then Niederhauser's not going to leave any opportunities open for Maxime Martin to slide through.
This is from Pereira, 10th on the grid. Blast off. Look at the BMW of Van Thor. That's it, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, Van Thor was sort of caught on the left-hand side of the track coming into turn 1, so had to get his elbows out a little bit to force his way ahead, which he did. And so here we are, the field all compacted, and the safety car coming in the end of this lap. Good job by the corner workers, the engineers around the racetrack to clear the circuit up and get rid of 3 cars.
Absolutely right. So we're getting to go racing once more. So the safety car peels into the pit lane, and here comes Mattia Drudi then as the race leader, and tries to get the advantage over Raffaele Marciello in the Mercedes, who's right there behind him. Green flag on the start line. We are good to go once more then. And Audi, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Ferrari, Audi, Porsche, BMW, Audi, Lamborghini is the way they come through in the top 10. Drudi to Marciello, 0.4 of a second as they dive through turn 1. And Marciello knows this is a golden chance with the cars all bunched up to have a stab at the race leader.
Yeah, no, it's going to be earlier than later, by the looks of things now, especially when tires are still in a relatively fresh condition. And what Marciello's going to try and do is push Matteo Drudi to the very limit of what the Italian driver can do in his Audi, and he's gaining, but not sufficiently. Will maybe get alongside just as they come in the brake zone, but Audi will be far enough ahead to sweep. All he can try and do is go around, but he even missed the opportunity for the undercut. In reality, he was too committed to make the undercut be a viable move.
Now what can he do at 7? He's not able to get up the inside, so the next target is going to be the left at turn 8. Goes wide in, he needs to slow it, duck up the inside, doors opened, but is he going to be able to get level with the Audi? He needs the drive off the corner, and Drudi's able to repel the challenge.
Yes, and yeah, just watching what the Audi did and up and alongside, so that took 3 corners. He planned that, he worked it out, and he got it completed successfully. So Raffaele Marciello has done an excellent job getting through to get up to the lead of the car, getting past both the front row cars, and now Marcello has got control of this race, which is precisely what he wanted to do, but more critically, he needed to do.
Yeah. So now let's see if he can build this lead to hand the car over up front to Timo Boguslawski, because it's going to be Boguslawski versus Feller versus Bastard versus Rossi. That's the order at the moment if you take the co-drivers. So the new race leading car is the Mercedes. It's Raffaele Marcello at the wheel of it, and half a second is the margin over Drudi. Niederhauser third, Martin, Vermeulen, Haase, Vantoor's up to 7th, Engelhardt down to 8th. De Falco is 9th, leading gold, and 10th, leading silver, is the blue Lamborghini of Maximilian Paul. That's for third. That's Niederhauser versus Martin, and they're nose to tail.
Yeah, and Maxime Martin has been inspirational since the lights went out, and again, getting himself close to the back of the Audi. Niederhauser's got no answer, really, and that's just that sheer straight line performance. And I don't know what's changed between the BMWs from yesterday and here this afternoon, but it looks as if they've done something that's giving them additional straight line performance.
The gold championship leading BMW, Callum Williams, Nicholas Crutton's cars just come into the pit lane. Callum Williams at the wheel, so bad news for the gold championship leaders as the car rejoined. Maybe it was a puncture, perhaps he'd run over some debris, but he's on the lead lap, crucially.
Yeah, that is key. One might suspect it's been a cut down tire with the amount of carbon fibre that would be up around turns 8, 9 and leading into 10. So Marcello's got a small advantage, just half a second from Matteo Drudi, and further back it's Maxime Martin, a 10th of a second behind Patrick Niederhauser. There you can see them as they come into the Sachs curves.
Thierry Vermeulen there comes through in the Red Bull liveried Ferrari, and of course his father, Max Verstappen's manager. But Vermeulen did a good job yesterday, and on this lap Maxime Martin an absolute best middle sector, Raffaele Marcello an absolute best first, and Marcello has done the fastest lap of the race. As further back in the pack, Nicholas Bart, number 12, goes through, and you can also see number 111 of Dean McDonald getting involved in the battles as the cars come up towards the end of the lap. Finlay Hutchison's in the mix as well in the other ComTU Audi. So over the line they go, Nicholas Bart, Yuki Namoto, then Dean McDonald, then Finlay Hutchison. Hutchison goes through, in fact, on the inside line there, diving into turn 1. So moves through ahead of the McLaren, goes after his teammate, and the start of car number 40 is now confirmed as being under investigation.
Well, good move by Hutchinson up the inside. The key was he got alongside the McLaren before they turned in, and that gave him the opportunity to make that pass and make it stick. Maxime Martin up into third position now ahead of Niederhauser, and will be running, what, just half a second behind second place, Matteo Drudi, the car that was the class of the field just 24 hours ago.
Here they come up towards the hairpin. So the Audi of Nicholas Bart in that battle pack, looking to try to gain ground, get the place back from Yuki Namoto. Further back there, look, an effort being made on the inside. Now that is the ComTU Audi. That's Christopher Haase's car, isn't it?
Yeah,
he must have been badly delayed early on, because Haase, don't forget, started 6th.
So those have probably started, or certainly into turn 1, where you're one lane getting away more freely and cleanly. As we look back at Dries van Thor, who's not been able to follow through at the same level of pace as we've seen from Maxime Martin. Now, I know that yesterday, with that 32 car, they made a few mechanical changes to the suspension, and one of which was to try and minimize the understeer, which seems to be the fundamental core element of what the BMW does. They ended up with a whole armful of oversteer as a consequence, so they've gone back maybe midway or somewhere in that area to try and gain a little bit of traction at the rear, but also mitigate some of the understeer that's been bedeviling both Dries van Thor and Charles Vetz.
Just seen Maximilian Paul go through in the number 65 Lamborghini, the blue Lambo, leading silver. That's the leading gold car. Alberto Di Falco at the wheel of the Boutsen VDS Audi. That merger of Mark van der Straten and Thierry Boutsen's teams, and the familiar VDS colour scheme adorning the Audi takes you back to the early days of the Endurance Cup when you had the Mark VDS BMWs on the grid. But right now, Alberto Di Falco, former Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, doing a good job hanging on to that class lead. And a challenge made there, as you saw Van Thor at the inside of Haase for 6th place. Dries van Thor in the BMW up the inside, but Christopher Haase fends him off as they come back towards us.
Yeah, so Dries van Thor's got to be wary that directly behind him, Christian Engelhardt be sitting waiting to watch what the BMW and the Audi do.
Incident involving car 14, car 10 in turn 8 under investigation.
Well, that's Adam Ataki in the 10 car, and
Consul Apolainen in 14. So that, I suspect, might have been the incident that turned around a techie and triggered all the dramas behind.
Could well be, yeah.
It was at turn 8, which is where it all happened. That's Vanthor on the back of Haase. So Dries, having moved with WRT away from Audi to BMW this year, this is the car that he shares with Charles Weerts. And remember, he and Weerts are triple Sprint Cup champions. Not such an easy season. They haven't had a win yet in the new to them BMW in Sprint Cup, at least.
Well, it's been certainly a year of development, evolution, and I suspect that next year we're going to see these BMWs running even more competitively than we've seen so far this season. Remember, Valentino Rossi won the second of the sprint races in Misano. That was the last sprint round that we attended.
And that was the one we expected, the Vanthor and Weerts car to win, but it had an uncharacteristically bad pit stop.
Woeful, I think.
Car faulty, 5-second time penalty to be taken at the pit stop for jump start.
So Mathieu Drudy
exceeding the authorized speed at the start.
Jumping the start, going too quickly before the lights went green. So a 5-second penalty at the pit stop for a jump start. Could be worse.
Could be worse, but that'll be music to the ears of Marcello and the Akotas ASP Mercedes team.
Let's have a look at that start, because number 40 Audi on the inside line, John.
Yes, I mean, the two cars should have been side by side. Now, is that the responsibility of the pole sitter, or is it the responsibility of Patrick Niederhauser? I don't know why. I mean, I don't know how they judge the speed, whatever the delta speed has been established that they have to follow. But certainly, Patrick Niederhauser and the left side of the grid were running at a different pace to those on the right.
So the Audi there is going to lose 5 seconds in the pit stops. Has to be held for 5 seconds on top of the regulation pit stop, although that in itself is a natural one. So it might not be quite as bad as it could be, because if it's a swift stop for the rest of it, the natural pit stop, then you can negate some of the lost time. There, though, Marcello leads. Second is Drudy. Third is Martin. Fourth is Niederhauser. Fifth is Vermeulen. And sixth is Haase. Seventh, Vanthor. In eighth place, Engelhardt. Ninth, DeFalco. 10th is Powell. 11th is Lapalainen. And 12th is Pereira, having dropped back a little bit now. So where's the next mover going to come from? Well, we've got a replay here of Raffaele Marcello. That's super slow-mo. Everyone winces as they see the car lean over the curb and bounce back onto the racetrack.
But I tell you, Raffaele Marcello makes it look so easy, the way he can balance the car on steering and throttle and gets that lovely constant arc coming into 16 and sweeping out, then back again to conclude turn 17. And he has been hard to judge just how quickly he is going. He set the fastest race lap already, and I'm on 39.210, and setting fastest sector times virtually at least one sector per lap.
And already drivers getting ready for the pit stops. We are with about 5 minutes to go, and Charles Weerts with his helmet on already. I wonder when they're going to bring in number 40 Audi. Do it at the start of the window, do it at the end? How are they going to play it? So at the moment, what they don't want to do necessarily is release the car into a load of traffic. It's going to be interesting to see when they blink, when they bring it in.
I would imagine they'll stay out, because there's not much to pick and choose between Feller and Drudy in terms of pace. So what they will try to do, as you point out, David, is pick when is the best moment to come in, bearing in mind we've got to stand stationary for 5 seconds before we can start doing any of the work, or do it the other way around, do the work and then remain stationary for 5 seconds. And this is the battle for bronze.
It is indeed. So through goes then the Hubert Haupt driven Mercedes, and Ralph Bohn behind. All of this means Ruma Jafali has fallen to 5th in bronze, but Ralph Bohn, a very experienced Porsche racer, and Hubert Haupt, who was a Audi DTM racer in the early 1990s, that went off to America to race in the former Atlantic equivalent, and he leads the class then. But Hubert Haupt wants for nothing in terms of experience. There he is over the line. It's his team as well that operates that car, the Haupt Racing team, and as he drops down towards turn 1, Hubert Haupt keeping Ralph Bohn at bay.
Silver Cup leader Maximilian Pau has made up a position, got past DeFalco in the Audi, so Maximilian Pau, I should say, is up to 9th position. And that's, again, I have to say, think he's doing a really excellent job for the Lamborghini brand. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he is the lead Lamborghini right now.
I think you're right. DTM race winner already this year. As there, DeFalco, number 9 versus Consta Lapalainen. This is 10th and 11th, Gold versus Pro. Here they come towards us then, Consta Lapalainen, who drove a Mercedes in the British GT round at Portimao last month, learning about another car. Slots in behind the Audi, goes one side, goes the other as they come out of turn 7. Heavy braking zone into 8, back onto the power. Second and third in silver, squabbling, Alain Valente versus Alex Arca. So Mercedes versus Audi, 15th and 16th overall.
So just watching what was going on in the Ferrari Lapalainen coming into turn 8, tried to do, or prepared to do what we've seen Maxime Martin do so successfully, and that's get the undercut. I don't think it was successful, but we wait to see when they come around. And yet again, Maxime Martin setting fastest sector times. So between he and Raffaele Marcello are the two cars that currently appear to have that little bit of additional pace.
There's Alex Arca then in a car that had technical gremlins before yesterday's race. They were concerned about the oil pressure, but then he got hit and it damaged the suspension, so he retired yesterday and lost the championship lead to Jordan Love, who'll take over that blue Mercedes in the second stint of the race. Marcello leading by just over 2 seconds right now, and Drudy to Martin is just under a second. So with the penalty, number 40 is going to drop down a bit.
Between car 30 and car 60 in turn 6 under investigation.
So that is Callan Williams and Franck Pereira. We had Callan Williams come into the pit lane.
Yeah, we didn't see that contact. So it may have been the reason why the BMW had to make a very quick pit stop. Just a tire most likely being cut down. As we look back at Rima Jafari in her car, currently running in 29th position and 5th in class.
And we'll hand that car over to the very rapid Fabian Schiller. The bronze entry is quite intriguing these days because you can have any grade of driver as long as you've got one bronze. It doesn't have to be both bronzes. So you get a gun for hire with your bronze. And when the gun for hire is in the car, boy, do they fly.
Careful what you say, David, you know. Careful what you say.
But people like Klaus Bachler and Fabian Schiller and Robert Renau, all very quick drivers in that bronze category. Dennis Marshall is another one. He was the bronze winner yesterday. You know, they're either pro factory drivers or very experienced drivers that have been around the block a lot, and they're put with an AM to help develop them and are worth their weight in bronze.
Lapalainen still trying to find a way past the Audi directly ahead, so it's De Falco in 10th position, and what the gap was half a second when they came around the last lap. The Ferrari has been a little closer to the Audi at different parts of the racetrack, and it's probably going to be much the case for this coming lap also.
Bouncing over the curb, Lapalainen then in 11th place overall. We're just over a minute away from the pit window opening. In other words, it will be open for some by the end of the lap, possibly even the race leaders as well. So look down into the pit lane. There are drivers standing by. There are teams getting ready as well. So there'll be a bit more activity on the pit apron, I guess, at the end of the lap as they, in some cases, will receive the cars in for the first wave of pit stops.
Yeah, you'd have to believe that Marcello and the 88 Mercedes, Martin and the 46 BMW, as two examples, will probably stay out as long as possible because their co-driver are not at the level of both Marcello and Martin. But what we do know is if we give Rossi or give Timo Boguslawski a car in a leading position, they will do the job to bring that car home to consolidate that position. So I suspect that's why we'll see these two cars in particular hang out until just about the closing seconds of the pit stop window.
I would concur with that. And Raffaele Marcello, we said he'd already done the fastest lap. Well, he's gone quicker again with an absolute best in sector 1 of this lap. So he's doing everything he can to build up that lead for Timo Boguslawski into the second stint. Drudy will be delayed in the pits before he hands over to Feller, and Maxime Martin will give way to Valentino Rossi. Niederhauser to Erwin Bastard. It's going to be very, very interesting this second stint. I think the Ferrari of Vermeulen and Albert Costa might be a dark prancing horse. What do you think?
Well, it looks like it's coming into the pits anyway, so Vermeulen is following the Audi. The first beg your pardon, it's the following the Audi in.
Martin's in early though, so Maxime Martin in straight away to give way to Rossi.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But look, the team are looking at the numbers, and they might say, well, look, if we keep them out, we're going to go into traffic that's already made their pit stops on fresher rubber than we're running on, so we may actually end up being slightly worse off. So Valentino Rossi gets in, helped by his co-mate, and both, in fact, WRT BMWs are in. So Charles Fates replacing Dries van Thor. Dries van Thor runs away from the back of the BMW. And a little bit, which is going to move. So the 32's overtaking the 46 in the pits. That was easy.
Wasn't it? That was a good stop, though, by the number 32 team. There is, of course, that pit stop competition for the mechanics. And number 32, the red BMW, leapfrogs the 46 blue and yellow, now Valentino Rossi car behind Charles Weerts. Right, Marcello leading. It was nearly 3 seconds last time from Drudy, from Niederhauser, from Vermeulen. Engelhardt's going to be up into 5th place. And the best of the pit stoppers then is going to be seemingly Charles Weerts now in the red BMW.
So good teamwork. I mean, the two crews were going head to head. The 46 came in ahead of the 32, and the 32 got turned around and got out ahead on board with Valentino Rossi.
I'll tell you a lie, because ahead of the pair of them is the Audi. Look, Lucas Leggeret has taken over from Christopher Hase. Lucas Leggeret, winner here last year in the endurance race. That Audi is also a car that's made a pit stop. So that's the best of the stoppers. Now he wants to try and protect that margin, doesn't he? Over the two BMWs with Valentino Rossi latching onto the back of Weerts.
Drudy is in, Vermeulen is also in, so there is the 40. Ricardo Feller just serving the 5 seconds before you could touch the car. 5 seconds like 5 hours. Now the door open. Gets Drudy in, gets Ricardo Feller. How much damage is that 5-second penalty going to do to overall positions for the 40, which was such a dominant car all the way through yesterday? But there's the man, there's the car that has now got a 5.7-second lead over second place Audi, but not Drudy or not Feller, but actually Patrick Niederhauser.
And away now goes Ricardo Feller. And he's going to slot into this battle, but where? Behind Leggeret, behind Van Thor, behind Rossi. Let's find out as they dive through turn one. Wait to see the Audi come out of the pit lane. He's going to be behind 1, 2, 3, all of them. He drops back behind. So there is the damage done with that penalty.
Yes, and that just goes to show one, I don't know, misjudgment. Let's call it a misjudgment. At the start of the race, and the penalty, it's not just the time penalty, it's track position. And that's going to be a big, big fight for Ricardo Feller to find a way getting past the two BMWs and the Audi directly ahead.
So there is 88, Raffaele Marcello, and stays out for another lap, rides the curb, coming into turn 17 and on exit. So he's trying to build that gap over Niederhauser, and he is doing so, isn't he? Because the blue Audi is some way back in second spot into turn one. Again up the curb goes Raffaele Marcello, takes that car by the scruff of the neck. You can almost hear it whimpering on occasions, and he's nearly 6 seconds ahead of Niederhauser.
Yeah, he gained 0.2 of a second on that last lap. Oh, and what's the problem? Is that a car just stopped, or has it been contact? And that's coming into the stadium. So that car can be pushed safely behind the retaining wall. You can see that there's not really going to be an issue. I wouldn't imagine be an issue with the need to have a full Courgello or a safety car deployment.
Gregoire de Mustier out of the race then, denying Christopher Mies the chance to drive.
Alakaka in.
Yeah, the driver that wants his silver championship lead back, but he'll give way to Lorenzo Petresi, Riccardo Petresi's son. Absolute best middle sector, Jordan Pepper. So the Lamborghini looking quick out on track. Another Lamborghini coming into the pit road. And more stops cycling through, including the Boots and VDS Adam Matecki Audi. So Marcello stays out for a little bit longer. 2 more laps, maybe he can ring out of the stint.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty impressive out time in sector 2 from Jordan Pepper. No surprise, because what he did in qualifying yesterday, what he did in the race. But as he said earlier today, we are good when the tyre is fresh, when the tyre starts to go through its cycle. We are inclined to overheat the rear tyre in particular, but doesn't stop Jordan Pepper. And I mean, the trouble is he's so far down the field in relative terms. Currently 22nd position. Aurelio Hispani's directly ahead of him by just under 3/4 of a second.
Now, right now, Leggeret is maintaining that gap, isn't he, over the BMWs, but behind, Ricardo Feller is chipping away. So he's inching up onto the back of Rossi, who is on the back of Weerts, but they're not being able to catch Lucas Leggeret.
No, they are not. So Leggeret doing an excellent job, and seemingly whatever there's on board with Valentino.
Fastest lap of the race, Dennis Marshall. He is in the bronze class Audi. He's 34th, but he's an Audi factory driver, and he's done the best lap of the race.
Yeah, pretty impressive lap too, 1 minute 38.4, and that's probably his first flying lap behind the wheel of the 66 Audi. So Dennis Marshall, and just looking up and down, timing and scoring, having to look to the bottom of page 1 to find that purple sector 1. Never normally look that far down to see purple sector times at all.
So over the timing line, there goes the Audi of Lucas Leggeret, Weerts, Rossi behind, and on board, that's Valentino Rossi. Let's listen.
Behind, Rossi, take the 5 seconds, hold on. Depends on you. Stand by, I will double check. Yes, behind. look already.
So the discussion being as to whether number 40 has served the penalty or not. The answer is yes, it did it in the pit stop. So Rossi knows exactly who he is racing, what the situation is.
Well, there's no doubt who he is racing. He's racing his own teammate. And there is Marcello in, so he comes in with about a lap and a bit to spare, but that's the time the team have chosen to come in. Had a 6.1 advantage over second place Patrick Niederhauser.
Now on that tracker map, as Marcello comes into the pit lane, you can see the best of the pit stoppers there. Number 11, that's Lucas Legeret. So he's coming now up towards the short straight that links the arena to the stadium. And so can that Mercedes, with Boguslavski at the wheel, rejoin ahead of this car? It's going to be tight because there's the stadium to go and then that long pit straight.
Yes, and of course, Timo Boguslavski has not been in his car since last night, and he's going to have to get up to speed literally at the exit of the pit lane. There is the 11 Audi coming through, so Lucas Legeret, you might believe that it's all beginning to swing towards the favour of the 11 Audi at this point. So has the Mercedes begun to roll yet or not? At least the Mercedes is at the end of the pit lane, so it's a short run through that right-hand curve before he gets back on track. But I think the 11 is good. There's the Mercedes just leaving the pit lane. So Legeret has got the lead. No, it's the Audi. That's an Audi. Where's the Mercedes?
It has left the pit lane.
It has left the pit lane, good.
So I think it's kept its lead. Up into second will be Legeret, and third, Erwin Bastar in that blue Audi. So next shot is hopefully to pick up the Mercedes on the run towards the Parabolica. There it is, so in traffic, but Timo Boguslavski has kept the lead, and with a flash of the lights, he's got quite a lead, hasn't he?
Yes, it does. It looks like the lead has extended beyond where it was before the pit stops came. It was Niederhauser who was in second place, but that's going to change. So there is now the second place Audi and the 25 following behind, then the pair of BMWs, and then the number 40 Audi with Ferrari coming to the show. Albert Costa, well, that's going to add a bit of ginger and pepper to the whole, not Jordan pepper.
Jordan pepper, no.
You know what I mean?
I do. I'm just thinking about this. The one that's won out of the pit stops is 11, Lucas Legeret. Obviously, the one that's lost is number 40, Audi. And although Ricardo Feller is up with Rossi, only now can he think about making a move. It's taken him a couple of laps or so to really chip away to be in a challenging position. But now Ricardo Feller is just about close enough to have a go as you look at the Legeret and then Bastar Audis, then Van Thor's BMW. And here's the first real fight. Rossi trying to fend off Feller.
So he's going to have to keep an eye open because Ricardo Feller, once he gets pace into his car, it's going to be the pace of Feller vis-a-vis the pace of Raffaele Marcello. So if you get caught behind not Marcello, Valentino Rossi for too long, then you lose the momentum, you lose your moment. He needs, if he's going to catch at this pace, he needs to strike as early as possible.
Right, Boguslavski to Legeret, 7 seconds, and this will be, there he is, Boguslavski's first flying lap. Look at the queue of cars behind those. They dive up towards turn 2, putting a lap there on the Porsche. That drops back into the queue. So Christian Engelhardt has given way now in number 54 to Adrian Delina, and that falls to the back of that pack as well as they come up into turn 6. So Boguslavski losing 0.3 in sector 1 to Legeret. It is on this for the Audis.
It is possible, but I mean, as long as Boguslavski can sort of measure his pace as he gets through the traffic, and that's very important to be able to get through, particularly coming into somewhere like turn 8. Here we are riding aboard the Timo Boguslavski.
Copy. 5-second time penalty to car 18 and 27, disrespecting track limits. 5 seconds added to the final racing time.
Well, one of those cars, 27's out of the race anyway. You saw the frustration from Boguslavski. He just could not get through the traffic.
No, I mean, look, the hand goes up and he's reading the race, looking forward. Further down the road, he wants to get past the Lamborghini, which he successfully managed to achieve. Now he's got the the Mercedes, the Rima Jamal car. She's not in it anymore. She'll be Fabian Schiller. And that'll not be an easy pass because Fabian Schiller is probably more than able to match the pace of Timo Boguslavski.
Now look at Ricardo Feller. He's had another lap staring at the back of Valentino Rossi's BMW, so it's not a walk in the park to get past him. He's not really latched totally onto the back either. Vermeulen is next. We've heard drivers talk about it not being easy to overtake at the Hockenheim ring, and Ricardo Feller, despite the pace he's got in the car, not yet being able to think about a move against Rossi. So look at this in slow motion. Over that curve goes Wirtz. The car dances with the back kicking out. Rossi likewise.
It looked like the BMW was laying rubber as it came back onto the track. There we see Valentino Rossi. So I think the moment has passed for Ricardo Feller. He's now running at the pace of the BMW directly ahead. He hasn't made further progress. He may have to wait until later in the race when they come up to maybe overtake lap traffic or other traffic that they may catch.
Off the curb at turn 6, can the Audis? Right, Boguslawski's last lap was a 1 minute 40.2. Leggeret a 1 minute 39.4. So the gap from over 7 seconds to 6.2. I still think Leggeret is going to be able to catch, and of course he's taking with him this great queue of cars. Rather smoky there.
Yes, and that bodywork, I think that's bodywork on that left rear tyre. So I don't know where that occurred, but certainly we saw the residue of it.
That's the Maximilian Powell Simon
car
Prim Lamborghini.
55, car 55, 5-second time penalty added to the final racing time for speeding in the pit lane.
That's Christopher Zirkling's Porsche, as you look at now Giacomo Altway getting himself onto the back of Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. BMW versus Ferrari. Down they dive into the stadium.
Ferrari slightly wide. Don't know quite why. Maybe just a little bit of aero wash was the reason for it. Now trying to get up and inside the BMW, but the Sachs curve, the way you come off the Sachs curve, the car on the higher ground almost automatically will drop down and cut off any attempt to pass. So rightly so, back out of it. Don't want to put yourself into jeopardy.
Ferrari a little bit twitchy. Lapalainen off turn 17, up over the timing line. Boguslawski 6.2 seconds to the good. And let's see what happens in the first sector of this next lap. Leggeret fractionally faster. Still that trace of smoke from the Lamborghini, isn't there? So Simon Prim carries on. And he's matching the pace of Lapalainen, so whatever the problem is, it's not really slowing him.
No, and it may just only be occurring in a right-hand corner. Certainly down at the hairpin bend, it was very clear that the bodywork was rubbing against the rear tyre. So Leggeret looking to find his way through the back markers, and this group of 4 cars all getting closer.
At this corner, look who's the bravest, look who's the fastest, Valentino Rossi. 220 kilometres an hour through turn 7, out of which they've just come. So Rossi, in only his second full season of car racing, he's learnt a lot in a short space of time.
I think a bit of motorcycle experience there, getting the knee out, getting the elbows out, scraping on the ground. And that's good effort by Valentino Rossi, because he's got concentration about trying to catch his sister car. Oh, look at that. Look at Charles Weerts. The car, absolute 4-wheel slide. Feller thinks there's a chance. Valentino runs wide, but the car will drop down on the Audi as they go through this sequence of 12, 13, 14, and then into the final 2 curves of 16 and 17. Feller looking, and he's got alongside and he's got up the inside, and also Albert Costa trying to make it 2 cars around the 46 in the space of 3 corners, and job done.
So Ricardo Feller applies the pressure, bit of rubbing between Ferrari and BMW, but Costa gets ahead of Rossi as well. Valentino will be really frustrated with that.
And look how far up the road Ricardo Feller is. Okay, Valentino had to deal with the Ferrari challenging as well, so that cost him time. But once Feller has been released, he's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So Feller's next target, Charles Weerts. Remember, the Audi should have the pace. It was the pole position car after all. But doing a lap time in isolation or catching them passing, very, very different propositions in GT3. Boguslawski, 6.5 seconds to the good. Actually was quicker last time than Leggeret, so he's now into his stride.
Good. So he's got himself, and this is where Boguslawski is at his best, when he's got clear road ahead, and he's got, all he has to do is now bring the car home. We've got just under 20 minutes of this race remaining. And he's got that 6.5 second advantage. Okay, Leggeret is maybe lapping, well, they're both lapping much the same, 2 or 3 tenths of a second either way. Maybe it just depends whether there's traffic involved in lapping some of the back markers. That's a bit of an aggressive move from the Mercedes, just to stop. Which car was that?
Oh dear, now that's your Lamborghini that we were looking at the smoke from, and it's suddenly got worse, hasn't it?
It has. That's, well, that was, well, to me it was tire smoke, but what we're seeing there looks like more to do with engine. As you see, Lorenzo Patrese leading the Silver Cup, running in 14th position, and he is only half a second behind on the road, Shergar in the McLaren.
So Simon Prim from that Lamborghini out of the race. Their second in silver is Jordan Love in the Hauck Racing Team entry. So Jordan Love doing the second stint, and he's being chased by Fred Vavish, or was being chased by Fred Vavish. Vavish now ahead of him, having taken over from Nicholas Bart. There you can see the Audi accelerating onto the pit straight. Meantime, another big dive coming up here, and that is from Jordan Pepper, who goes ahead of the gold leading Aurelien Panis and goes 9th overall.
Yeah, I mean, the pace Pepper has shown all through the weekend has been very impressive indeed, and it's not a big surprise that he's found his way around to get up into what is now 9th position.
So Jordan Pepper's next target is going to be Adrian Delina in the Porsche, and he's got about 5 seconds or so to make up. In bronze, it is now Sebastian Bode, GT4 graduate, sharing with Hubert Haupt, who leads, and behind is Robert Renau. So this is your lead battle in bronze, and Robert Renau is a hugely experienced Porsche campaigner.
And that's a battle that's going on just at the bottom of the, between 10th and 20th and 19th and 20th overall. So there's the gap between those two battling cars, and it's one silver, one is bronze.
So there, the two bronze class leaders, Bode versus Renau. Porsche inching up onto the back of the red Mercedes. Robert Renau into turn 7. And what he doesn't know about Porsches is not worth knowing. We've just had into the pit lane also with a problem, another of the McLarens. And it is Christian Kleen. So I'm afraid it's not a good race for JP Motorsport as you look at Renau then accelerating towards the stadium. But actually, in fairness to Sebastian Bode, he's maintaining that gap. There's Leggeret, who's falling away again from Boguslavski. If anything, he's being caught by Owen Bastard rather than closing on Boguslavski.
Well, Boguslavski clearly has now got a 7.3 second advantage over Lucas Leggeret. And Owen Bastard within a second of the second place Audi, and then they've got Charles Weerts in the lead BMW further 2 seconds behind. So the top 3 are in relative terms clear, but the battle with Weerts, Feller, Costa, Rossi, Delenier, Jordan Pepper up to 9th place, that's going to be the core battle till the checkered flag.
And here is Rossi in the traffic, gets himself up the inside of the Matteo Desideri Lamborghini and goes through, then over JSM car, puts a lap on the car in 36th place. And this is the view, accelerating down towards turn 7. Adrian Delina in the Porsche, chasing after Valentino Rossi and being chased in turn by Jordan Pepper. 16 minutes on the clock, but barring a mistake, I think Boguslavski now is into a rhythm. And of course, every season with more mileage, he gets better and better. This year, by doing sprint and endurance, he's doing a lot more mileage.
Yeah, just getting seat time, getting your confidence, getting the belief from within the team. So Delina squeezes through the Lamborghini coming into the stadium. Once again, now he's got the BMW directly ahead. That gap was just under half a second when they came across the line, a bit more right now. But once Delina's cleared the traffic, then ought to be able to close that back down.
5 second time penalty added to the final racing time for car 30, causing a collision in turn 6.
Big battle going on there. Number 30 is the Crutton Williams BMW from earlier on in the race. It had its dramas. Big fight here, John.
Yeah, a bit busy around turn 8. And everybody's sort of tippy-toeing around, trying to not trip over one another. And, well, there's going to be a chance to get past. So the Honda has lost one, now it's lost 2. And that was a little bit of a snooker ball form of contact between the Porsche and the Honda. And, well, I don't think there'll be any particular attention from the stewards, but we saw what happened yesterday.
Yeah, that was Klaus Bachler, very much a pro, against Jacopo Guidetti.
Yeah.
Who is in silver, so maybe Bachler will have to answer for that. Dennis Marshall, in the meantime, number 66, coming up towards the line, chasing after Enrique Chavez, so for position within bronze, there they are, and that would be 3rd in bronze, McLaren ahead of Audi.
So Dennis Marshall, again, one of the stars in Audi throughout the seasons that we've followed it, and now behind the wheel has got, well, a fair amount of work to do to make any significant improvement, as we see our race leader with a 7.2 second advantage over now Lucas Leggeret. And all that's going to affect the outcome of this race, to me, is going to be this car getting caught behind a non-cooperative back marker and losing time.
Car 87, 5 second time penalty added to the final racing time, disrespecting track limits.
That's the Jim Pla Eric Debard Mercedes that gets the penalty, the sister car to this, but no dramas for Boguslavski and Marcello. We've now got just under 14 minutes to go and an advantage of 7.3 seconds. Actually, Boguslavski has ended up with a bigger gap than Marcello ever had.
Indeed he does. He's got a very comfortable 7.3 second advantage, and Bastard is right on the gearbox or under the rear wing of the second place Audi of Leggeret.
Now, as the Mercedes comes up to turn 6, let's listen.
I lost first gear. What did you lost? What did you lost? First gear, first gear. Okay, okay, try to do your best, try to do your best. 14 minutes to go, 14 minutes to go.
So, lost third gear, I think, is what Timo Boguslavski was saying. And although he's got this 7-second advantage, let's see whether he can drive around the problem. Trouble is, you've always got to go through that missing gear on a sequential box.
Yes, you do. It's not like the old manual gearboxes where you could delete a gear. So it's a challenge for Boguslavski, but he seems to be man enough to do it. And still, his race pace, his last lap was a 1:39.9 against the last lap of second place Legerev of 1:40. So he's still at the races, in spite of having to bandage the car a little bit to make sure that when he goes from second, he goes through third into fourth. I mean, a lot of these corners, I suspect, are third, fourth gear corners anyway. It's only really at the slowest part of the circuit you go through the gearbox to go down to second.
But it is now starting to matter, because the last lap he did was a 1:41.5 as against a 1:39.9. So 7 seconds has become 5.7. All of a sudden, Legerev has a chance again.
I wonder if the message has gone out to Legerev to tell him that we've been picking up the radio traffic and Mercedes 88 has got a problem. There's an opportunity to take a victory here this afternoon. 11 minutes to go and there's 5 seconds, so you're looking at roughly half a second and a bit a lap.
Looks on that graphic as though third gear was back again. Maybe it's a temperamental gear. Sometimes you go for it and it's there, sometimes you go for it and it's not.
Well, it's an electronic control in the back of the steering wheel, so whether that maybe is causing a problem, and of course the actuators and all the bits and pieces that are involved in the actual mechanical shifting of the gears. But there is the battle for second place, and Legerev, while he's focusing, really trying to run down the race leader, he needs to be fully aware that he's himself under challenge from the 25 Santa Lock Racing Audi.
Does indeed, as the cars now head once again into the stadium. So if Audi understands the problem that Mercedes is having, although these are two different teams, would they want them to carry on fighting? Of course, for the championship, it is every man for himself, but for the good of the brand, they could do with not squabbling and just going after Boguslavski, who's gone over the timing line, and his last lap was back to a proper pace, 1:39.6. And therefore the margin should stretch back up again over Legerev. 5.8, Legerev only a tenth slower. Let's have a look at the two Audis in slow motion. Out of turn 16, again up the curb. See the driver aiming at the clipping point for turn 17. Much wider though there.
5 second time
yes,
penalty
interesting to see the 25.
71 for disrespecting track limits. 5 seconds added to the final racing time.
Owen Bastard bouncing over the curb. The most recent track limit penalty goes to 71. The Sean Hudspeth, Nicola Marinangeli Ferrari. As here you've got the battling Audis. So yeah, even if Boguslavski does have a problem, he's being able to drive around in here. Look, 9:11. Klaus Bachler has got himself up past Enrique Chavez for 4th in bronze, still being led by Sebastian Bode, that category.
So Bachler, the pro driver on that car, running against the McLaren, so Bachler getting the better of it and making progress, as one would assume. Enrique Chavez, who, believe me, I've been impressed with all season.
Yeah, definitely. Former single-seater gun. Up towards turn 2 comes Bachler. And let's see how he got through. Look at the replay here. So Bachler gets ahead of the Honda. And Chavez goes wide. And Bachler lines it up beautifully. Comes out of turn 8.
It looked like he had to breathe the throttle, but maybe that's just the onboard wasn't quite clear, but it certainly seemed there was no gain for Bachler until they'd exited the corner, at which point then he got clear.
So job done. Klaus Bachler, next target Dennis Marshall. Leaders go through, lead gap up again.
So there is the race leader, and he's picked up about a couple of 0.3 of a second in the space of that last lap. So he's able to consolidate whatever the issue he has in terms of finding third gear. He's been able to adapt to it very well, and that's given him the ability to once again start to pull away from the battling Audis, and Charles Weerts some 4 seconds behind that group. He's nothing much he's got to do other than defend from Ricardo Feller, who's only less than half a second behind the 32 BMW.
But again, Feller is a bit stuck, isn't he? Because the pace of the car's so evenly matched that although he's close, he's not able to really find that final 10th to be able to dive by unless he's really, really brave coming up towards 7. But straight away, of course, Charles Weerts defends, keeps him at bay.
Yeah, Feller saw an opportunity and immediately Weerts was on it. Looks, try to just enter the corner in the middle of the road. Watch for the Ferrari. Albert Costa's the one that might actually be the beneficiary out of this battle going on between the BM and the Audi. So Feller was frustrated, and Weerts again, not Weerts, sorry, there's Charles Weerts, having to use more of the racetrack in his defence of his current 4th place.
And 7.5 minutes of the race remain as Albert Costa now arrives on the scene to try to have a go at Feller. And that's the last thing Ricardo needs, having to defend. He wants to just attack Weerts, doesn't he? Doesn't want to have to start delaying himself by defending against that Ferrari. 4th, 5th, 6th we're looking at, and they're all in the pro category.
So Feller certainly made a move on Charles Weerts, coming out of turn 6 all the way through 7, 8, and then wasn't able to get it done on the exit of 9. And that's where the Ferrari began to sense that I've got a chance also. So Weerts driving a smart race, he's not blocking, he's just putting his car in the bits of the racetrack that he knows that Feller would like to use.
But that Audi, we know is quick, outpaced everything else in qualifying. Ricardo Feller in his stint, in his qualifying yesterday was 2nd fastest, and it was the winning car yesterday. And a good result, absolutely essential for championship hopes, especially given that Boguslavski and Marcello are set seemingly to extend their lead with another win here, their 3rd of the season beckoning.
So here we are back to the scene of the action just 1 lap ago. Feller clearly quicker out of turn 6, gets himself into a position this time. Weerts not having to maybe move into the middle of the racetrack, not feeling quite so vulnerable, but Feller takes the high line, maybe looking for an undercut as the transition between, there we go, got it done, yes, no, yes. And
nicely
that's,
done.
yeah, I mean, that's textbook. How do you overtake another car that is slower than you but managing to maintain his position? Albert Costa would do well to follow or to watch and follow, but maybe Weerts there's not much left in the tank, and he's now having to be defensive again against Costa, as he was doing with Feller.
So Ricardo Feller has 6 minutes in which to try to go after the other Audis, and look, straight away he's away and gone, and Weerts falls into the clutches of Albert Costa in that Verstappen.com Racing Ferrari. Well, these two cars clashed at the end of yesterday's race. They might be on for the same thing here. It's exactly the same sort of battle. BMW ahead of Ferrari, and Ferrari catching fast. Over the line they go. Lead gap up again, 6.2 seconds. Boguslavski to Leggeret. Erwin Bastard 3rd, heading for his best finish of the season. And then Ricardo Feller up into 4th place. Still the fastest lap of the race, claimed by Dennis Marshall from lap 16. And we're on lap 32 right now.
I think it's the traction for the BMW that's its weak point right now. That's what they can see coming out of turns 2 and 3, how close the Ferrari is. The next opportunity is going to be at the end of this back or long curving straight. So that's how Ricardo Feller started the process. And Albert Costa, if he wants to find a way past Charles Weerts, he's going to have to do a very similar thing. Takes the very long way, but gets stuck to the back because the BMW hasn't got the traction off turn 6 that either the Audi has, we saw that, or I believe the Ferrari also has got.
Nose to tail they run. You can see behind Valentino Rossi dropping into the clutches of Adrian Delina. And again here, look, Albert Costa tries from one side and then the other. Now, can he do a Feller? No, because he can't get the switch back. Didn't work.
He went the wrong side. He should have held his ground and tried and get up alongside, but Charles Weerts didn't offer up the opportunity in the way that was given just a lap 2 ago to Ricardo Feller.
So the Ferrari then skips up the curb into and through the approach to the stadium. Clock ticks on down. 4 more minutes of the race remain now. And again, they're absolutely nose to tail. Further up the road, Timur Boguslavski has just put 32 laps in the book. And behind him, what do we have? We've got Lucas Leggeret ahead of Erwin Bastard, and then this is the fight for 5th place behind Ricardo Feller. It's still Weerts ahead of Costa, BMW ahead of Ferrari.
And just watching the BMW come off the curbing, and you know the back end of the car looks like it's very lively indeed. And Valentino Rossi also with his hands pretty full, with the 54 Porsche Adrian Delina directly behind him.
How long to go? 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
So Charles Weirts checks in with how long to go. In other words, how long do I have to keep this Ferrari at bay for? And it was 4 minutes at the time. And there, off the road, looks like being Nikolai Kjærgaard's McLaren. And it is. And that is coming out of turn 8 down towards the stadium, isn't it?
Yes,
in fact, it's in the stadium, 16.
It is, and that's an unusual part of the racetrack to see a car off. Anyway, let's get back to this battle, and we're watching what's going on behind Charles Weirts, and he's got Ferrari all over him now. Porsche all over the back of Valentino Rossi. So I don't know how much difference there is between the abilities of Adrian Delina and Valentino Rossi. But clearly, both BMWs have been caught, in some cases overtaken, in other cases managing to stave off the attack, certainly here with Costa, but also now Delina with Valentino Rossi.
Now that McLaren is in the gravel between turns 16 and 17. You'll see it in a moment as the cars head to that part of the racetrack. Doesn't leave a lot of room for people to go wide. They shouldn't be going wide anyway, but if you do run off the road, then that McLaren is in the gravel, just on the outside of that corner. But I think it's able to be left there with just over 2 more minutes of the race to run. Race direction doesn't seem to be hugely concerned as long as people respect the yellow flags. And if they do, we should be okay.
Yeah, where the car is actually is part of where the drag strip here at Hockenheim. So it's actually off in the gravel, but that's roughly where the drag strip commences.
Right, here you go. This is, now it's sideways into shot. Was there a tag? Possibly. But Nikolai Kjærgaard tries to control the slide. Everything locks up, John.
Yeah, I mean, when you lock up your wheels, then you're just going to slide. The tires just become, I mean, they need to be rotating to help the slow down process. The front's clearly locked. There must be a lot of front braking on that McLaren, whereas the rears are rotating without any problem whatsoever. Now, what can Costa do? This time, lap 34. He's tried for the last 4 or 5 laps at this part of the racetrack. He hasn't found the solution. Charles Weirts, again, having dealt with, or having to deal with Feller and losing, has probably picked up a lesson or two. So out of turn 8 through turn 9. Again, the cut back through turn 10 is where you might think you've got a bit of a gain, but doesn't appear that Costa can do anything to match Charles Weirts.
Down they dive into the stadium then with less than a minute to go. So the leader, Timo Boguslavski, is about to start his last lap from Legerette, from Bastard. And again, just like at the end of yesterday's race, number 69 Ferrari all over the back of 32 BMW. Different drivers though this time. It is Costa chasing Weirts. 1 lap to go for Boguslavski then, who is on target for his and Raffaele Marciello's 8th win as a partnership. And fascinating fact 37 is that this will be the first time they've won from anywhere other than pole position.
Well, that's one for the Anoraks to delve over, savor, and anyway, I think the most important thing for that 88 Mercedes is they've consolidated their position in the championship. Checkered flag will be out at the end of this lap.
So Boguslavski to Legerette, the gap back up to over 7 seconds. Bastard 3rd, 4th Feller, 5th Weirts, 6th is Costa. In the silver category, the leader is Lorenzo Patrese, but Jordan Love is not that far behind, look, in the blue Mercedes. Gold is being led by Aurelien Panis. Bronze is being led by Sebastian Bode. There he is. There's the bronze leader just ahead of the Porsche, so Sebastian Bode goes through. That gap is just under a second, but probably the closest of the classes is silver. We're on the last lap of the race as you see the Lamborghini under attack coming up towards turn 2. And so under attack is Charles Weirts. Everywhere you look, there's a fight going on at the moment, perhaps other than for the race lead. Running out of corners, running out of options is Albert Costa. For the moment, at least, Weirts fends him off.
Yes, and it's really nothing more we can see. Albeit these 2 cars got together in that final 2 turns, but different drivers in their respective cars.
And a yellow flag, of course, for that part of the circuit on this last lap. Checkered flag awaits. And it is going to be for Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marciello, a 3rd victory of the season as they come through in Sprint Cup. Win number 3 for the Akkodis ASP Mercedes. Timo Boguslavski, Raffaele Marciello win at Hockenheim. 2nd is going to be Lucas Legerette and Christopher Hauser. Good result there, best of the year ahead of Erwin Bastard and Patrick Niederhauser. Their best. And 4th, Ricardo Feller and Mathieu Drudi. Could have been a lot worse given that penalty. 5th, Charles Weerts, Dries van Thor ahead of Thierry Vermeulen and Albert Costa. 7th goes to Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin ahead of Adrien Delina and Christian Engelhardt. There's the winning gold car. Aurélien Panis brings home the car started by Alberto Di Folco. In silver, it is going to be, he checks, yes, the Audi. So Lorenzo Petresi and Alex Arca win today ahead of Jordan Love and Alain Valente. And in bronze, it should be the red Mercedes. Look back, there it is. Sebastian Bode fending off the challenge of Robert Renau, who's got a bit stuck in traffic behind Cesar Gazzo. So Sebastian Bode and Hubert Haupt take a first win of the year in bronze.
Well, from good battles all the way to the four categories here this afternoon. And not as controversial a race in some respects, but certainly a very, very intense battle all through the classes. And an excellent job by Timo Boguslawski. He knew he had to stand up and deliver. He was given a 6 and a bit second, almost 7 seconds advantage over the second place car. It fell back to 5. We thought, oh, is this a problem? It was a problem. Reported third gear not activating properly. But whatever they were able to do, they got that resolved. And he's managed to extend that advantage back up to the 7 seconds. Great job by the 88 Mercedes, the whole team, pit stops, and both drivers, Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello.
So the silver winners, Lorenzo Petresi and Alex Arca. 3rd win of the year for them in the silver category. Good effort, making amends for yesterday, although in fairness, it wasn't really their fault that the car suffered damage. It was given a big whack up at turn 2. And there is the bronze winning Mercedes, Sebastian Bode and Hubert Haupt. That car was eliminated early on yesterday from memory. So being able to turn around the weekend. But Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello take a 3rd Sprint Cup win of the season. And the more mileage that Timo Boguslawski does, the better he gets. Last year, he only did the Sprint Cup, so he wasn't really in the car for that much of the season. This year, by doing both championships, it really is showing.
Yeah, I mean, seat time is absolutely invaluable, and you can't come and jump in and perform if you're not a regular. I mean, doing 5 events out of a 10-race combined series puts you at a disadvantage.
Well, he comes down the pit lane then as the race winner. Excellent job by Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello, of course, who did exactly what was required in that first stint. Got the car into the lead. Under the winner's arch comes the Mercedes. So Timo Boguslawski and Raffaele Marcello victorious. Lucas Legere and Christopher Hauser, and then Owen Bastard and Patrick Niederhauser take 3rd. Legere and Niederhauser, of course, winners here last year in the endurance race. Good effort to win gold again, Aurélien Panis and Alberto Di Folco. Well, that is their 3rd victory of the season as well. So 3rd win for the pro winners, 3rd for the gold, 3rd for the silver, but a maiden victory for the bronze victors, Sebastian Bode and Hubert Haupt.
Well, there are the victors, Timo Boguslawski being congratulated by his teammate Raffaele Marcello. And I mean, as ever, Raffaele is just so chill, so cool.
Well, let's hear from the two of them. Pirelli hats on head, and Gemma's down there.
Lello, Timo, we'll just let you get your hat on there and breathe perhaps as you get out the car. That was tough. Watching on Lello, you knew that he'd lost the 3rd gear, right?
We didn't lost it at 10. I think it was only like a small issue, or like maybe on the bumps in the downshift is a bit harsh in the hot temperature, so I think it was only like a small issue, but at 10 we didn't have any issue, luckily.
But certainly that restart, you reclaimed the lead and set it up for Timo once more.
Yeah, I mean, the car was really good. I don't think we had the best weekend in speed compared to other races, but at the end, I mean, maybe we lacked a bit in quali, but in the race the car is always fantastic. So it was nice to fight with Mattia and then to overtake him.
Congratulations, Lello. A quick word from you, Timo. You were struggling with the 3rd gear. Lello said it wasn't a major problem, but how difficult was it to hold that lead?
To be honest, it was not difficult. I mean, first of all, I lost like 1st gear and after 2nd. So, yeah, when you're losing 2nd, it's quite difficult. But yeah, I mean, 2nd gear gets back. So after, and yeah, I just finished the race. Yeah, car was amazing. Just I want to say sorry to the team for yesterday. Yesterday was totally not my day. So, but yeah, I think we are now take a good gap in the championship. We can go to Valencia.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you.
Yeah, Valencia, the next stop. It was rather wet there last year. We had one of the best races because of the wet-dry tyre gamble. But it does, importantly, as Timo Boguslavski suggests, John, stretch their advantage in the championship.
Yes, and it makes up for the disappointment of the Saturday race when the car was retired relatively early on. So here we are, back at the races. Order resumed, one might say.
Now, what about our gold winners, Alberto Di Folco and Aurelian Panis? Win number 3 of the season for them.
Gents, congratulations. That's a gold class win.
Yeah, great result for us, for the team. Now we are again fighting for the championship, and we are very happy about this result also because Valencia and Zandvoort are the track for the Audi. So thank you all the team, Boutsen, Aurelian for the great stint, all the sponsor, Mark. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you and Aurelian. It was a big battle out there. I mean, that was real close racing for the full hour.
Yeah, sure. Always, the sprint is always really tough, but at the end, yeah, we are really happy. Alberto did an amazing job this morning in quali. Great start, and we finished the job. So really happy with this P1, and this victory is for you. It's for my little princess Hortense. I love you.
Oh, félicitations.
So very, very happy. Aurelian Panis takes the 3rd victory in gold, and that's going to help in the championship for them as well, especially with the disappointment for the Nicholas Crutten and Callum Williams BMW, that finishing 31st overall, a long, long way down the order. Now, the silver winners, Lorenzo Petresi and Alex Arca, were 14th overall, and that for them is also a 3rd win of the year.
Boys, we'll just come in and grab a quick word. Alex, we spoke at the start of the weekend. You said a podium for you guys would be fantastic. A class win now is just perfect, right?
Yeah, we've started the weekend with issues. Pretty much recovered from it from what we see today. But yeah, after all, I think I can't complain about anything. So class win is always what we gain, or like what we're used to, and this is what we finished off as well. So I like it.
I love it. It's just what you're used to. Lorenzo, you really are creating a name for yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. It has been quite a hard weekend yesterday with Alex retiring. Today we struggled a little bit in quali, also in the race, but I mean, Alex did a great job. The guys did a great job of the pit stop. And then, yeah, I came out of the pits in 3rd, could recover. So, yeah, I'm really happy, yeah.
Great work from all of you. Thank you very much, well done.
So well done, Alex Arca, Lorenzo Petresi. Oil pressure dramas and a damaged suspension issue yesterday caused them big problems. Today a win kind of makes up for yesterday, doesn't it? So a bittersweet weekend for many of the teams, but that sets them up nicely in the continuing battle in the silver part of the championship.
And remember, Lorenzo Petresi, 17 years old. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yes, could you have perceived when you raced against his father in Formula 1 that you'd be talking about his son many years to come?
I mean, it just
shows you how fast time marches on. Sebastian Bode and Hubert Hout are our bronze winners.
Congratulations, a class win once again. Sebastian, you brought that one home. A great day after yesterday, which was a bit of a struggle, right?
Yeah, yesterday is the difficult race because you not finished the race, the start very difficult. And this race, Hubert, we had a mega job in the starts, and I finished the race. It's incredible because it's fantastic. Yesterday is not finished, and today we win. It's good for the championship, and I'm very happy. My teammate is fabulous driver, and I continue in Valence.
Thank you very much, well done. Hubert, of course, you started that race and must be very proud as team owner as well.
That was a nice start. I think I gained 10 positions in the first 2 laps, so it was not so bad. We are still pushing for the championship, so everything is open now.
Absolutely, some great fun races still to come. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hubert Hout, the H of HRT, Hout Racing team, there in Super Slow-Mo is the Bronze Cup winning Mercedes then, using all of that curb, but staying just about in contact with the racetrack and therefore not getting track limit concerns, at least on that lap. So the drivers now head to the podium, and there are podiums, of course, for each of the 4 classes. But the pros will be, of course, the first, and the trophies await. So this is the race result then. Timo Boguslavski and Raffaele Marcello, the winners, ahead of Lucas Leggeret and Christopher Hauser. Then Owen Bastard and Patrick Niederhauser in 3rd. 4th, to Riccardo Feller and Mattia Drudi after the penalty at the pit stop. Then Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor fending off Albert Costa and Thierry Vermeulen's Ferrari. 7th to Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin, the best Porsche. 8th, Adrian Delina and Christian Engelhardt from Jordan Pepper and from Pereira. 10th, the winning gold, Aurelien Panis and Alberto Di Folco. 14th, the winning silver, Alex Arca and Lorenzo Patrese. And 19th, the winning bronze, Sebastian Bode and Hubert Hout. And a number of non-finishers. Christian Klein with issues. The overheating engine for the Lamborghini of Simon Prim. Christopher Meese's car stopped. Stephen Palette's Porsche had damage early on. And we lost Paul Everard and Patrick Goprinski in that first lap tangle coming into turn 8. So drivers make their way onto the podium. 3rd in pro, 3rd overall, Owen Bastard and Patrick Niederhauser. There for 2nd place will be Christopher Haase and Lucas Legeret. The unfeasibly tall Lucas Legeret, who sort of folds himself up to get into a car. But for the top step of the podium for the 3rd time this year and their 8th win together. And the first time they've done it anywhere but pole position. Raffaele Marcello and Timo Bogoslawski. Jerome Policon, the team principal, steps onto the podium first in order to represent the team. And then now the drivers will step forward. There is Raffaele Marcello, Timo Bogoslawski ahead of him. And they are victorious here at Hockenheim. Acodis ASP, the French Mercedes team, victorious. Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marcello, the drivers. And so with the national anthem of the winning team played, Pirelli caps back on for the photographs, and next there will be the trophies to be presented in the reverse order. So Markus Zettler, the Lord Mayor of Hockenheim, comes onto the podium to hand the trophies to Erwin Bastard, and then to Patrick Niederhauser, overall winner last year. Another of the overall winners last year, Lucas Legeret. At the other end of the podium is there with Christopher Haase. The evergreen Christopher Haase, and one of a number of Audi drivers who must be wondering what the future holds for him now.
Yes, it's going to be a long winter, I suspect, for many of these drivers who have enjoyed long-time association with the Audi brand. And where will seats be available, and will those drivers be the drivers that teams are looking for?
Indeed so. Well, if you wanted a Mercedes driver, look for Raffaele Marcello, wouldn't you? And Timo Bogoslawski gets better and better every season. Timo, I think, is trying to avoid being saturated by the champagne, but he can't run away just yet because there are photographs. Jerome Policon has a rather evil glint in his eyes. He picks up the bottle ready to attack his drivers. And now, Timo Bogoslawski is not in the mood to play, is he?
I mean, it's unusual to see a driver walk off the podium when the celebrations are about to commence. I don't know what his reasons are. Maybe he's got something that he doesn't feel he wants to share with the rest of the drivers on the podium.
So in the championship, the lead extended for Raffaele Marcello and Timo Bogoslawski. They extend that margin over Mattia Drudi and Riccardo Feller, with the reigning champions Dries van Thor and Charles Weerts third. Then Lucas Legeret and Christopher Haase closing up, with Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin next, ahead of Thierry Vermeulen and Albert Costa. In terms of the manufacturers globally, taking not only Europe but also Asia, Australia and America, Mercedes AMG ahead of Porsche, and then in third, not that far adrift of Porsche in fact, is Audi, based on the different regions and the different endurance and sprint competitions, the overall manufacturers' points. So the podium is being made ready for the next 3 combinations to head up there. So gold, I think we should come to next, to the drivers being called forward, and there you can see the Mercedes of race winner, Raffaele Marcello, after an excellent drive with Timo Boguslavski to come through and score honours for the 3rd time this season. Next stop for Sprint Cup is Valencia in 2 weeks' time, and let's see what pans out when we head to Spain. For now, from Gemma Scott, John Watson and David Addison, it's goodbye from Germany.